What up, everybody? Charles for HumbleMechanic.com. Emiliano has a question about his MK6 GTI. He's having some issues with it shutting off or stalling when it gets below a quarter of a tank. So he also has a check engine light for a P0087 and a misfire on cylinder 2. You got a fuel thing going on because clearly it's related to fuel level. Now, I actually do think it's probably due to a low side fuel issue. Whether it's the pump, whether it's the module, or whether it's the filter, you're going to need to do a little bit of diagnosis. Now, if you have a fuel pressure gauge, this gets really easy because we just hook our fuel pressure gauge up when it's below a quarter of a tank and see what our fuel pressure is. Now, if you don't have a fuel pressure gauge, it gets a little tricky, but there's some ways we can kind of work around that. First thing I would do is I would actually go ahead and just put a fuel filter on it. Look, it's a filter. Despite the fact that there's no replacement interval in the owner's book, it's a filter, it can get clogged, it can get dirty. We want to make sure that we're not dealing with something that simple. Also remember that that filter actually has the regulator built into it. So if the regulator's getting squirrely, then we want to make sure we just go ahead and take care of that. So fuel filter, easy as can be. We also may be dealing with a fuel pump issue where it's actually kind of starving for fuel at a low fuel level. So you can pull the fuel pump out and inspect it and make sure it's not all full of grime and grit and dirt and crap. Make sure that we didn't do damage to our tank where the bottom of our fuel tank's actually pushed into the bottom of the pump. We also want to look at our evap system because evap system issues can actually cause weirdness with fuel dependent on fuel level. We also maybe want to look at the high side, but to me, because it's dependent on the level of the fuel, then we want to focus on low side first. And the kind of the smart aleck in me would just say, well, don't run it so low on fuel, but I'm trying to avoid being that guy right now. You know, running your car down to a quarter of a tank is not a big deal. I like to keep a little more fuel in my car than that for a whole other set of reasons. But you know what, man? Put a fuel filter on it and kind of go from there. It may not fix it, but you know what? It really doesn't hurt to have a good, fresh fuel filter. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, go ahead and post it in the comment section below. Also, if you want a question answered like this, email me, charles@humblemechanic.com. Put question for Charles in the subject, and be sure to follow the quick videos playlist on YouTube. Oop, I didn't stop it.